This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Sharding on the Wall in pre-K.
Oh, God.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Roll the Credits, the podcast, the only podcast that got dolled up for this episode. I'm Zach.
And I'm Frank.
Did my nails, that's something.
Yeah.
I do my nails every week. And today we're here to talk about the best makeup in film. Some of our favorites, some of the ones that we really enjoy. Again, whether it be prosthetic, whether it be just full-on face of makeup, hair, whatever you want.
Anything and everything.
Anything that has to do with the facial region of characters.
Yes.
And I kind of went like pretty diverse with it, I think. Like between
I did too.
Between like just regular makeup, prosthetics, and then just like one or two that's out there.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious to see what you thought of first. I feel like I know one.
Which one?
I'm gonna wait and see. I
Okay.
feel like I know one.
Okay. I wanted to first shout out one of my favorite makeup effects, like, period, which is Freddy Krueger's.
Yeah.
Original Robert Englund.
Mm-hmm. He was an honorable mention for me.
He's got to me, the way that Freddy Krueger looks, his face, and even like the costume as well, but that doesn't really have to do with the makeup, but everything together is just one of, in my opinion, like, it's more recognizable than Michael Myers, than Jason.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's, the glove, like, everything about it is just so iconic. And the fact that, like, something that, like, let's use Michael Myers as an example. Something that they really struggled with throughout the entire franchise of Michael Myers and the Halloween was the consistency, right? Like, the mask looked fucking different in every single movie. And some of them are horrible.
4, Return of Michael Myers, is like the worst one. It's like they literally just took like a fucking white silly putty and just put it over his face.
It is. Some of them are so bad.
Yeah.
Jason, for the most part, stayed pretty consistent because that one is so simple. It's just a hockey mask.
But he didn't get the hockey mask
until
like
the second one.
Third.
Really? No, that's the second one.
Third, because the first movie is the mom.
Yes.
The second one, he has the bag over his head with just the eye hole. Third one, which is not good.
Yes.
That one has the hockey mask.
Bag, you're right.
And then you get Jason X,
right,
which is one of my guilty
iconic.
I love Jason X for no reason.
But yeah, so Freddy, for the most part, looked exactly the same in every movie.
I think the only one where they like slightly changed it up was
New Nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah, New Nightmare, he looked a little different.
Yeah, but that's still like it's Freddy. Like you can tell that it's Freddy.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically, we've had this discussion before, but that's why he's like the king of slashers in the 80s. Like the consistency, the charisma of him.
Because the first one didn't have as, like, he was a little bit more serious, that first one. He didn't have like those, like, a lot of like the really, iconic slapsticky kind of like one-liners and whatever. That kind of started developing in the sequels.
Yes. Freddy's Revenge, definitely.
Yeah. And like he's so iconic. He looks so good. It's unfortunate that like the Krueger movies are sort of messy.
Not all. I feel like out of all of like that era of like the horror films that was like, 6-7 issues of films, I think Freddy's probably like the best out of them.
He's probably the most consistent.
Yeah.
But
because I'm that weirdo that likes Freddy's Revenge and Dream Warriors.
Which one is Dream Warriors? I
think that's the
third one. Third
yeah.
one's pretty good.
Yeah, I like the third one.
Yeah. Honestly, there is something about almost all of them that you can enjoy.
Yeah.
And Freddy being one of them, of course. Like, he's so iconic, and his makeup and Robert Englund's, depiction of Freddy and, how they made him look is just going to, like, never go away. He's just the best.
Yeah. I agree. For mine, I'm going to like build up a little bit to it. So starting out at number 1, I thought...
Number 5.
Well, yeah, technically. Number 5 working down to number 1. So 2018's Bohemian Rhapsody. Rami Malek performance as Freddy Krueger, Freddy Krueger as well as Freddie Mercury.
Mama
just killed a man. It's just fucking, Where's that crossover?
Yeah.
Somebody's definitely made that. But yeah, like Rami Malek as like Freddie Mercury, I thought was like a really, really cool one. It's a very subtle one. And the head of like makeup artist was Jan Sewell. And then I believe Mark Kohler, I could be pronouncing that wrong, did the prosthetic for it, where they made like, I think about like, 3 separate like prosthetics for the teeth just to get that different range for him.
Right.
And
I never saw that movie.
It was okay.
I heard it's fine.
Biopic movies, like they're not.
Yeah.
It's few and far between of like which ones are actually good.
Yeah.
Most of them no.
Yeah.
Because like most of them just end with like a very like type of ending.
Yeah.
Like you build up this entire thing and then it's just like black screen and it's like they live for another 30 years and they live comfortably in the Hiltons. It's like whatever, like, or they died right after this.
Yeah.
But I know that there was like this whole controversy where it's like, you know, when Rami Malek got like cast for it, that like Sacha Baron Cohen wanted to do it as well. But
he was originally supposed to be like, he was originally in like talks, but he wanted to go like down the route of
more
like the drug abuse and like the homosexuality and like all of that. And they were like, no, this is like a feel good movie.
And it's like, I kind of get it. I kind of wish I could have gotten that better because like Sacha Baron Cohen also has like that natural face to it.
Yeah, he would have been a great
100%. Yeah. But like, I think like Rami Malek has like this kind of like sweet spot in my heart of like an actor where it's like, he's getting there, but like he could be somebody like top tier.
Yeah.
And I think like his performance and like the prosthetics for it like really brought together like a Freddie Mercury on screen.
Yeah. He definitely looked the part for sure. Mm-hmm. Never saw it, but like watching the trailers and seeing stills and whatever, I'm like, he definitely looks like him.
Oh yeah, like especially too like the side by side of like Live Aid. I was like, yeah, they got like his hair down, they got his mustache down, they got his jaw down.
Yeah. It was definitely it was probably like really shocking for some people.
Oh, 100%. Like people that like, because I know that they had like original members of like Queen like check it out too.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure that was like kind of weird just to see like, okay, this person playing me, and I was like, oh my god, there's Freddie.
Yeah, that is actually Freddie.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one, I wanted to shout out the Queen herself, Tilda Swinton. It was just what's the word that I'm looking for? I don't know.
Asparagus?
I wanted to shout out specifically her in Suspiria, where she plays Dr. Klemper.
Mm-hmm. She played like 3 roles.
She plays like 3 roles in that movie, but it's so insane to look at her as the Doctor because it's just like she's completely gone.
Well, we talked about that. Like, I did not know that was her for like half the film.
It's like you're kind of thinking that it's just another actor. It's just like an old man, and it's just done so well. And her performance is so great, and you know the voice that she puts on for it. I mean, it's just really, really impressive makeup art. It's just like, God, because there's nothing worse than looking at a movie and being like, oh, that's noticeable makeup. Like you genuinely look like an old person that was done up to look old, and that just wasn't the case with this movie.
Yeah,
she looks amazing.
Yeah, like like the fact that you tricked us
into
being like, I thought this was just an old man, and then looking at the credits and being like, oh, that's Tilda.
Right.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy. So she's my number 2.
Cool. My number 4 then.
I guess that would be my number 4.
Yeah, whatever. Well, unless you're also building up to the.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm just kind of here.
Yeah, you're just in it. So again, another biopic, but again, like these are the ones that it's like I think people like excel at doing like makeup and hair. And I don't think that you saw this, but 2021's The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
No.
Jessica Chastain completely like looks like another person.
Yeah.
The way that they did it. So it was Linda Dowds who was the head makeup artist, and then prosthetics was done by Justin Raleigh and hair was done by Stephanie Ingram. Throughout the film, like it kind of transitions until like you're just smacked with like, oh my god, like she's like orange with like massive cheeks and like the done up eyes and like I don't before watching this film, I didn't know like really anything about like Tammy Faye. I didn't know like one that they had like a public access like TV show where it was just like talking about like God. And then I also didn't know about like the behind the scenes stuff of like the husband like cheating on her and like, you know, them like basically frauding like most of their money.
Yeah.
And losing everything. So it's like I didn't know all that stuff, and that's fine. Like I kind of got to see it, but like I was glued to the screen for the fact that like how Jessica Chastain looked. I think it was like really, really well done, and by the end of it, like where like she's just so unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And again, that's that thing where it's like, you know, if you cast somebody and like you have them unrecognizable, like you've done a good job. Like you can't tell who this is anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Okay. Maybe this is the one that you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It probably is. I wanted to shout out Brendan Fraser's The Whale. Is that not the one?
I kind of like that wasn't the one. I kind of thought that you would like be that one.
So Charlie. The thing about The Whale and what they did to Charlie was interesting because we've seen obesity depicted in other films.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's usually done for like comedic effect. When it's like that big, right? You know, you're kind of thinking of like Dr. Doolittle or
Dr. Doolittle,
right? Isn't that where he's like playing all those different characters? And
no, that's the one where he's into like animals.
Oh yeah, right. Well, not like that.
Nutty Professor?
Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like where it's just like done for like this really comedic effect, and it's very like. It's obviously not real, and it's not really supposed to meant like he looks like he's stuffed with like pillows and whatnot. Like it doesn't look real.
It's all goo in there.
It just doesn't look real. And like the fact that, you know, Darren Aronofsky was kind of like, you know, no, we want this to move and act like real skin and real weight, and like you want there to be like a real heft to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the most realistic I've seen of like that big.
Yeah, I mean, I still have yet to see The Whale.
Yeah.
Which is upsetting at this point. I'm probably just waiting for it to like not be $20 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or go to HBO Max. HBO Max, maybe put it out there, maybe. Just but like I saw like a full body shot, and like the way that like he was sitting in like the wheelchair, like what got me too was like the way that his feet were kind of like bent in.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, like everything about him too. It's like because you pretty much see him like in his entirety for the most part, and like the legs, the ankles, the feet, the wrists, like everything about him, his back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, damn, it looks so good, and like it's hard to watch because it's like it feels so realistic. There's
I can't imagine too how long that must have taken.
Well, I know Brendan Fraser put on a good amount of weight, and he was like, he wanted to like fully put on a bunch of weight like for it, and then they were just like, no, you can't do that. Like that's too much.
Yeah.
But just as like a little like, hey, that was like a little fun Easter egg thing, and that I thought was really cool in the movie was that there's a scene in the movie, like kind of like when you first see him, he gets up out of the chair and he's got like a sweat, like he's sweating, right? And he's got like this sweat stain on his back, and like the way that the sweat stain looks, it looks like a tail.
King?
No, it looks like the tail of a whale.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, I love that.
Yeah.
Like just subtle things like that, like where you may not even notice it, but it's like when I saw it in theaters, I was like, I saw that, Darren. That was really great.
I see you. I got you.
I see you. It was really good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. But no, seriously though, like the way that he moves and like it really does feel like heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I still got to see that, man.
It's good.
Yeah, I want to watch it. Next one for me. This is number 3. This is an old one. So this is
oldie but a goodie.
Oldie but a goodie. 1922's Count Orlok, played by Max Schreck for Nosferatu.
Ah, yes.
Probably one of the best, oldest like makeup art for a horror film. I probably will butcher this again, but the prosthetics for it was made by Albin Grue. German silent film, was based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Just a really cool rendition of, and I looked up like pictures of like Max Schreck 2 just to be like, okay, like what did he actually look like? Because I've only ever seen like all these things where it's like people were, and they made the movie about it, of like Shadow the Vampire with Willem Dafoe, where they were like, oh, like while he was filming, like he was a very recluse person, like he didn't want to come out, like he had like this very vampiric presence to him, like being so like lanky and like tall, and he doesn't look really anything like that. Like he didn't look like super like vampire-esque. So the fact of the matter is that like Albarn like made these prosthetics of like the nose and the ears and like the face to really kind of like make him look like the vampire Count Orlok. And I thought that was like really well done, especially too when you get like the more iconic shot of like him walking up the stairs and you get that shadow of him like crawling up, and then just him like standing in the doorway.
No, he's like genuinely like terrifying looking.
Creepy.
In that movie.
It's a creepy thing.
Yeah.
And then there was like all the rumors too where it's like he actually was a vampire.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
unlikely.
1920s Germany. So like it could have been, it could have not been. We don't know.
Yeah.
But Count Orlok like was one of the ones where it's like genuinely scary by like the prosthetics of it.
Yeah. Well, you kind of already you mentioned him in your depiction of it, but I wanted to mention Gary Oldman's Dracula in Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, I almost thought about that too, just because of like how well.
Dude, Gary Oldman in that movie, he's such a fucking character actor, and he's just so iconic looking in that movie.
Yeah, between like the fucking crazy Bat one, the old version, and like him as like a hot stud.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I guess like specifically when he's older and he's got like the head. He looks so good. And there's just never like that movie. I have a love-hate relationship with that movie.
I still want to do it. It's like weird. Sorry, side story. Like this was supposed to be like number like 6 or 7 ever episodes that we did was I wanted to do Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then like we just never did it. Like I put it in
all the months of horror and all of that
book.
Yeah.
This book that I take all the notes in, I put in there Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's just a blank page. We just never did it.
Well, his makeup is really great in that movie. He looks similarly like what you were saying about Nosferatu. Like there is a genuine kind of like freakiness about him. He looks like skeevy and like nasty, and he's pale, but like he's dressed so eloquently, and it's just like it's a really cool like juxtaposition of like the way that he's dressed and like how fucking freaky he looks.
Yeah, they also did a really cool like shadow thing in that movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of amazing like filmmaking techniques in that movie that are just so good. And it was so untraditional for the time. Like they just didn't need to do it because they like at that time it was like, hey, we have CGI now, like whatever. Yeah. But they were like, no, let's do it like how they would do a movie in the 1920s.
Exactly.
It's great. But yeah, Gary Oldman as Dracula is just like it's one of those costumes and one of those makeup designs that I don't think you see it once and you just never forget it. Is just always in your brain permanently as like one of the most iconic characters ever.
Yeah. I want to check that movie out again too, because it's been like years since I've watched that.
Keanu Reeves is really awful.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember Keanu Reeves being like the worst part of it.
Yeah.
But Gary Oldman kind of makes up for most of it.
Again, I have a love-hate relationship with that movie. Zach.
Next one.
Yes.
This is the one that I thought you might have picked.
Yeah, I don't think I did because
2022, Michael Morano, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, the Batman.
Yeah, it's something that I thought about and I looked at him and I was like, it's really good. It really is good. And I mean, Colin Farrell's unrecognizable. Like he's completely lost in it.
Like same thing as like Brandon Fraser as the Whale. Like it's just like I remember like when we were starting to get like depictions of like, you know, here's some screenshots of the Batman and like here's the full cast, and like you saw Colin Farrell's name on there and you were like, who the fuck is he playing?
Yeah.
And then like, you know, they released it that like, oh, he's playing the Penguin, and then they released like the first shot of the Penguin and I was like, that's not Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, it doesn't look like him. It looks
Yeah.
like a completely different person.
And like it's just like I've seen like a kind of thing of like, you know, a sped up shot of Colin Farrell like getting the makeup put onto him.
Oh yeah.
And it's like really crazy. Like they had to like shave like part of his hair to get like the weird like slightly balding look to Penguin's hair, and like the chin being put on and like the neck being put on. Like it's just really cool. And then like the fat suit that they put onto him too. And Michael Morano is actually like pretty popular at this point. Like he did the makeup for Black Swan. And then he did a number of other things, but he also did like the deleted scene of the Batman of Barry Keoghan as the Joker. It's all right.
You don't really get a great look at it, and I don't know.
It's whatever. I mean, I don't want the Joker anyways for Batman 2.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I guess we're getting that. But still, like, I think Colin Farrell is like just really, really like he looks so good as the Penguin. Like,
yeah.
And it was gonna be like I was also gonna put in Danny DeVito as the Penguin. But I was like, I can't have two Penguins in this.
You can.
I can, but like I do have a soft spot for Danny DeVito's Penguin.
Of course.
He's just like so over the top as like a Batman villain where it's like it's the obvious fat suit and like the tiny arms and like the nose prosthetic and the hair that they put on him.
And the suit that he wears.
Yeah,
Like it's just so
the teeth, like the makeup that they did to make his skin look crazy, like and then Danny DeVito just playing him. I am not a human being.
the nose.
I am an animal.
Yeah. It's a strange movie.
It's one of the better ones of like that era of Batman.
Yeah.
I think so. Besides like the Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson one.
Yeah.
That one's the better one.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Bad
and then you get to like the one with like Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy and Bane, and then I think Arnold as like Mr. Freeze, and that's the one with like the bat nipples and like the bat credit card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, what are we doing?
Yeah. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy though.
It's all right.
Nah, I think I like her.
They did like the weird eyebrows. That's what fucked with me. Everything else was fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, my last pick, and like these are always kind of these are not like my favorite of all time. These are just kind of like ones that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
As of recently, for the most part, I wanted to shout out the Green Knight. The Green Knight himself.
Just say it 4 more times.
Ralph Ineson, I think is how you pronounce his name. Dude, I love the way the Green Knight looks in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a green tree person. Like
Exactly.
he's so cool looking.
I always love the like straggly kind of like branches on his head that makes it look like a crown.
Yeah, and the fact that it's all done practically, and there isn't really like any CGI on it. Really, it's just him in that suit. And I don't know, man. Everything about him, like you look at him in the eyes, and there's like nothing there.
Yeah,
and it's like kind of freaky a little bit, but like you're not scared of him at the same time. But you should be, because that intro is so amazing and iconic, and in his voice, Ralph's voice is just so good. And he just has one of my favorite intros of a character, like period.
The laugh at the end too of like him holding his head.
Yeah, and he's just riding away like the Headless Horseman. It's just so good. And I just love the way that he looks, man. And like, you know, I sit there and I look at, you know, when he gets to the end of the movie and he's kind of like bowing there, and the Green Knight is just sleeping. Yeah. And he like opens his eyes and he looks at him and he's just like,
it's like, not yet.
Not yet. He just goes back to sleep and just ignores them. It's just great. And I just love the way he looks in that movie. It's just like, again, it's going to be like, for me, it's going to be similar to what I was saying about Dracula, where it's like, I'm never going to forget that. It's just, it's stuck with me and it's there like permanently. It's great.
Yeah. I like that one a lot. Okay. My favorite.
Of all time?
Not of all time, but I think like just one of the best like that has ever come around. And that is 2000's The Grinch, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
He makes that prosthetic work.
I just saw that movie for the first time.
Seriously?
Last year, like Well, not I guess last year, like December of last year.
It's a good version of The Grinch.
It's fun.
I like
it's
the
for
fact,
kids,
except for the party, where it's like, oh, put your keys in the bowl, and they're like, oh, so in that way you don't go out driving.
Yeah.
But really, it's a swingers
swinger
party.
Yeah,
That's how they hide it for you.
yeah.
Yeah, I think like Jim Carrey already has like, and he's been known throughout his career having like these facial features that like he basically can like contort his face.
Yeah.
And to build like a prosthetic to match that, like he just worked so well for like to get that vibe with his face of like the old cartoon of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And that kind of goes into like the makeup designer Kazuhiro Tsuji. Picking all these.
Say it again.
Kazuhiro Tsuji.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm picking all these names that I can't pronounce. It took about 2 hours to do the makeup and prosthetics for it. And I guess there was like this crazy story where it's like Tsuji actually like checked himself into like a mental institution for like a little bit because Jim Carrey was like such an asshole about like one, the movie, and then two, also putting on the makeup.
Yeah.
That like he was just like, I can't do this. Like I'm done. Like I have to like make sure that my mental health is good. And then I guess like, you know, he kind of played it off where it's like, I'm gonna leave and then show them that like they need me to finish this. And then like a couple of days later, Jim Carrey apologized, and I guess like he got like a little bit more extra money out of it because of this situation. But again, he's known for, besides How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but also like the Ron Perlman Hellboys, which I really, really like. And then also Curious Case of Benjamin Button, like that makeup design.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got like really good stuff. Also Men in Black, like I think 1, 2, and 3, like he did like all the prosthetic stuff for them.
Like all the aliens and shit.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And like all the weird makeup, like the one guy that like looks like he's decaying throughout the entire film.
Yeah,
it's like this guy knows what he's doing. So it's like you don't piss him off.
Yeah.
But Jim Carrey is always like one of my favorites, where it's just like he just made it work so well for the film.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, and he's definitely what you would like. He definitely embodies the character.
Yeah,
and he looks like a Grinch.
Mm-hmm. Unlike Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat.
Yes,
that one's terrifying.
I kind of like that one.
I don't like that one. It's like too like his face doesn't move. Where I'm like, ooh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, makeup, man.
Yes,
very well needed in films.
Mm-hmm.
This was a cool one. I like that we did this.
Zach, you have a wreck.
I got a wreck.
A wreck baby.
I got a wreck baby. It's Wreck 2.
Not to be confused with Shrek 2.
Yes, which was a good movie, but not to be confused with Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Right.
So I actually have a podcast that I wanted to recommend.
Nice. We always love shouting out the competition.
I know. Well, these guys are like a little bit different. I really like their stuff. I found them probably like about a month ago, and I like when I did like my last recommendation of like the game Greedfall, in between like me just like traveling around, like going to like different spots, I was listening to them because it's just like such an easy thing to put on in the background. But the podcast is called The Basement Yard, originally created by Joe Santagato, and then it was like, these guys have only been around for like since 2015, but it was like 2 years ago that, because Joe Santagato made it, but he just was like having like different friends on. And then 2 years ago, he added on like an episode of his best friend, like Frank Alvarez. And he's just been on it ever since. Like I literally looked up to where it's like the skyrocket of like viewers once like Frank got on there, was really cool. And like they kind of do the same thing where it's like they have like YouTube version, and then they also have like just podcast version. And I've been watching a lot of the YouTube ones, and it's literally just two friends just talking about nonsense for like an hour. And I really, really enjoy that, because it's like they'll start off and they'll talk about like how Frank like on the drive to come to do the podcast, he'll like have a bottle ready to like piss in his car, and like the way that he's able to pee in his car, which then shifts somehow into like crazy animals from Australia that they don't want to fuck with, to then switching into like family stories about them, like growing up as kids.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Like, it's just an hour long of them just talking about whatever they want to talk about. And like, there have been some really hilarious moments. Like, they're on Patreon too, where it's like they have like a whole other episode that's like dirty, or like they'll talk about like sex toys, or they'll have like ones where it's like they're in full drag.
Oh, okay.
Like doing the episode. So it's really fun. I just enjoy like watching them.
Cool.
So Basement Yard.
Nice. Zach, what movie are we doing next?
We're doing a weird one. We are going to be doing a French Netflix film.
Okay.
Called I Lost My Body.
Hand. No, not just the hand.
Yeah, the hand.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Okay, you like it?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, you didn't like it. Well, we're gonna talk about it anyways.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay.
I Lost My Body. Great. Zach, take us out.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Now, Frank, roll the credits.